Well, I guess my first question is it just Mexico City in November, or are you guys going to add more?
There's two.
Yeah, the 2 Mexico shows, right?
Yeah, Mexico City with Amon Amarth and Guadalajara with somebody else.
Because that seems to be the conflict that started the big brouhaha with the whole Death Angel business. Yeah.
Not my band.
Right. I mean, everybody's got an opinion on it, and I figured I would have to ask you.
I think it might
What's
be
your
the
opinion
Australian one. Because the Australian one's
Australian one
beginning
that
of
pulled it?
December.
Okay. Oh, okay. So there's three, like multiple conflicting dates.
Oh, yeah.
Mexico, Australia, etc. Okay. Is that the kind of thing that you expected to come up suddenly, or did it just opportunity presented and here we are? Like the
That's
Slayer
pretty
reunion.
much here it is. Well,
Right?
yeah. That came up. You know, that was shot down for years and years and years. And, you know, finally it's like, okay, you know, we can... Once I figured out how to spin it, because, you know, I was always like one that said, you know, we retired, but at the end of the day, we retired from touring. We're not going to tour anymore. So, my take on it is there's 3 shows celebrating the 5-year anniversary of our last tour.
I think it's fair. You guys did say, I remember you saying specifically in press, like, we might do some festivals or something here and there, but there's no more band, no more new album, no more touring.
No album.
Where are
No,
the chains?
They're sitting in the same shitty bag they were in when they were on tour.
They probably smell awful.
No, they don't smell. It's metal.
No?
They don't smell like anything.
The bag probably smells awful.
Maybe.
Are you bringing the bag? I mean, is it going to be
No.
a full... No?
No, I retired the chains.
So this is a chainless commemorative...
The chain drop. I'm not going to be a hypocrite and do that. May I make something different? I might make something different, but I'm not wearing those.
Could the chains maybe be part of like a charity auction someday or something interesting like that? Or a museum exhibit?
You know, I was quite surprised that the Hard Rock or the Rock and Roll Museum Hall of Fame in Cleveland didn't hit me up for any of that stuff. I was kind of blown away. So cool, I still have it.
Well, I think we can all just assume that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just doesn't know enough about metal to know that they want
They've
them.
got a little Big Four section that the only band not super hugely represented is us.
And you were the first to
weird.
retire
Yeah.
of the Big Four. I did not see that coming.
I didn't either.
So the new album, From Hell I Rise, is awesome, but you already knew that. And when you played, I was super lucky. I got to hear the rough mixes at your house in 22. And
It's way better.
Yeah.
It's
I
way
had
better
a feeling
than
it would
wasn't.
be. I mean, you did caveat that these are rough mixes. And I think some of them didn't have vocals yet, and some of
Could
them had your vocals. And then when I heard the album, I noticed that Mark kind of kept to that same range that you were in.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Mark has a lot of range to go through. And I didn't know if that was intentional. Like, did you want to keep it that tone? Or did you not want Mark to be singing any kind of like clean vocals or power vocals or...
I definitely didn't want clean vocals.
Mm-hmm.
This music, well, this family of songs, so to speak, doesn't have room for any clean vocals. It's all too aggro. And, you know, I wanted it to be aggressive and represent what the songs were trying to bark out. And they're written in a way that, you know, it's just got to be angry. And what I wanted to do, and we worked on probably, because he did demos with us probably, I don't even know, probably 10, 12 months off and on. Come down every 5-6 weeks when he was free. And he would come down and better songs he had done or sing new ones that he hadn't sung yet. You know, and I just instilled in his brain, I said, I don't want Death Angel Mark, and that's nothing against Death Angel. I got no beef with him at all. But I said, you've got to become something that is going to be you from now till you end singing. It's like you got to become this dude that people are going to say, I did not expect that out of him. I didn't expect it out of him. And where we ended up, you know, I was very, very happy and very proud of his performance. When he started singing, the range he was singing in for the demos is completely different than he did on the album. You know, and we didn't talk about it. He just came in and showed up and went for it. You know, and it was the second song he did. I think it was Residue. And Josh Wilbur, the producer, I was in another room doing something, came in and get me and said, I think you should listen to this. And we got through like the first verse and chorus. I said, how did you end up at this register? He's like, well, that's where Mark felt comfortable singing it. And I immediately went to Mark and I said, hey, is this reproducible, or are you gonna, you know, sing 2 shows and be out for the next 3? And so far so good. You know, he told me then he could do it. And, you know, I've known Mark for decades, but I don't know Mark like that at that point. So, you know, an hour later I went and asked him again just to see if anything changed. And he made me a believer, so that's what we kept, and it just kept getting crazier from there.
And so far, you guys are a good few shows in. Mm-hmm. He's holding up?
Oh, God, he sounds great.
I knew he would. You know, when I was one of the few people that knew that he was in the band, so whenever we were around each other, he had, like, that moment of, like, you know. It was just this, like, crazy sense of relief and excitement that would just hit him. And at the last...
It was tough on those guys.
It was really hard.
I mean, it's tough on me, but at least I could say I was in the band, you know. But the other guys, you know, we kept a good lid on it.
It was hard on me, and I had nothing to do with the band. People just knew that I knew and were trying to get it out of me, and I was like, I said I wouldn't say anything.
Yeah, it was definitely by far the best kept secret in metal, if not music completely.
But Mark has been, not only is he really strong in the vocals, but he was so confident that the last Death Angel show, he was just blasting it out there, and he would look up at me in the balcony and just like hold a note for an insanely long period of time.
He does some stuff now, you know.
And then just look up and wink.
He does that. He does that thing I like about frontmen singers when, you know, they come to a live situation and they tweak their performance a bit. You know, and make it a little different, make it a little bit more edgy for the live crowd. And when I watch some stuff on YouTube and stuff, I'm like, I had no idea he was doing that. I have him a little bit in my monitors, not a lot, but I didn't notice some of the things he was doing. And yeah, he's holding some notes.
So that's what I was wondering is, are the songs evolving? Because they were created in such isolation. Even when you guys were working together, you really didn't get a chance to work together on the music. Now that you guys are together for a lot of shows, has there been any kind of evolution or thought to changing anything up?
Never really occurred to me. You know, it's just, for us, it's figuring out where to be and when to be there on stage. and you know, the beginning of this tour, we were still figuring that out, but now I think I got all my light cues down now. And I think we all know where to be, and I'm not in danger of getting hit by a stray guitar head or something.
So how long do you feel like it took from like first rehearsals of playing together to actually just firing on all cylinders and feeling confident?
We've had some, you know, in Europe we had some, but it was still gelling. You know, it took a long time. It's not like riding a bike like I thought it was going to be, for me anyway. But like Hellfest was super rad in Europe. Mystic in Poland was killer. Tuska in Finland. I think it was Finland. They were killer shows. You know, and then you'd have ones to where you're like, I missed this part. Or when we first started doing this, I hadn't played with pedals in so long. I'd be daydreaming over on stage right somewhere and go, motherfucker, there's no way I'm going to get back to that fucking pedal over there. It's just not going to happen. You know, just getting that mindset and getting that bike feel back took a long time, but when it finally gelled for me and stopped having to think about stuff was around Montreal on this tour. Montreal's a really killer show, and we've had pretty much really killer shows since, so I think the learning curves come and went.
How far out are you sketched with the solo band now? Because I think because of the pandemic, having absolutely nothing for so long, it gave you so much time to write music, come up with plans, come up with ideas. It sounds like, from what I'm hearing in other interviews, you're already like on the third album in your head.
I've got, you know, I don't have the second album mapped out. I got plenty of material for it. I don't know if everything I've written is what's going to be on album 2, or if there's something I've yet to write that might still be on album 2. But there'll be plenty of downtime in between tours to work on that. Plenty of songs. Me and Paul have demoed probably 10 or 12 songs between now and the recording of Repentless, because I still got stuff from that. I still got stuff from Hell I Rise, and I've got stuff I've written since then. So there's a multitude of stuff that's just kind of, waiting around until we get off of this U.S. run for me to readdress. And I want to, whenever album 1 album cycle's over, Paul and I are determined to go in within a week or two and just get live performance. So we don't have to relearn and re-up our chops. We'll be coming off tour, we'll be sharp, rehearse those songs for a couple weeks and hopefully get right in and record record 2, whenever that is.
So at this point, you've got this tour, Mexico, Australia. Is there anything on the books or tentatively on the books for next year touring?
Yep.
Anything you can say?
No.
No. Can you say if it's headline or a package?
The only thing I know right now is headline.
Okay. So, what size venues are you looking at?
I think it's 1,000 to 1,500.
Yeah.
Because they want it to be an event. They want to sell out. They want people not to be able to get tickets. So it becomes such a thing that, everybody's like, they need to come back, and hopefully then we come back and play, 25, 3,000 maybe.
Are there things that you realize are now possible to do with this band that were kind of unrealistic when you were in Slayer?
Like what?
And now you've got an opportunity to play some historic theaters that Slayer didn't play? Or,
oh, you mean size-wise?
Yeah, well, venues or, anything that
but we
happens
might
when
have
you're starting
hit
over with the band.
We might have hit those places coming up. So it might. It's been a while, but I mean, I'm sure I'm going to come into a lot of these places and say, I remember this place.
I'm going to ask about the Fillmore, because I don't think Slayer played the Fillmore in San Francisco, did you?
I don't know. I know the Warfield was a big thing for a while.
Mm-hmm. I remember the Warfield. I know you played the Stone and Mountain View Theater and a lot of different places around the Bay, but I don't think you played the Fillmore.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I'm at
4 decades of gigs. I can't remember all of them.
I haven't even been to that many, and I can't remember all of them. The songs, everybody seems to be really excited about the fact that you sang the songs before Mark did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's the novelty of people not realizing you could sing. And I feel like your vocals are kind of like the Gene Simmons level. They're great.
I'm like,
you
I hope that's good.
Yeah. No, I mean,
like,
Gene Simmons had a ton of hits with Kiss. I mean, he's a good singer. He can sing. I think that Kiss just evolved into the greater range and different registers that Paul Stanley had. But I feel like, and I think I told you this before when I first heard the songs, that you could totally sing some songs if you wanted to. Like if Mark was taking a break, or if people wanted to, for whatever reason you guys wanted to change up the set, have you thought about singing one of the less complicated guitar songs?
I can't.
No.
I would say I could probably get by doing Two Fists, but then there's the riff in the middle that doesn't really have a lot of vocals on it, but the riff right before it does, and I couldn't sing over that. Yeah, I can. When you see me singing live, it's because the riff's so easy I don't got to think about it.
When it comes to people clamoring to hear it, do you think it's something that you guys might just drop on the internet for fun, or maybe do like a record store day B-side release?
It might show up somewhere.
Yeah.
Mark's not worried about it. He doesn't feel threatened by me doing it. So, I know, like when I was younger, and I know Tipton did a record, and I know Tipton did some singing on it. Of course, I was intrigued. He's one of my favorite guitar players, so I can see people would be into it, so it wouldn't surprise me if it ends up somewhere.
I think people are just super curious.
Yeah, for sure.
I was totally shocked to find out you sang. It just didn't dawn on me, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm an angry little fucker.
You're sneaky, because you're not singing anywhere else, right? Have you sang on a project that I missed?
I did Slayer scratch vocals for years.
But nothing that the average person, the average fan would have heard.
No.
Yeah, it's all
No.
it's all like under the radar stuff. You changed guitars from to Dean now, right?
Yeah, I got with Dean just at the tail end of the Slayer run.
What was the caveat for changing up?
Well, I mean, anybody that knows me, and even if you don't know me, you know I don't hop between companies very often, if at all. But, you know, BC Rich ran its course. They owed me money for a long, long time. And I always knew pulling the trigger on moving means I'm never going to see that money. So I waited. I'm like, all right, Slayer's wrapping up now, I know. So my new company, I want to give them a little bit of heat. So, you know, it's worth their while to take me on. You know, not just waiting for my solo thing, but, you know, get some Slayer heat. So, like, mid-year 19, I got with those guys. You know, and if things were different with BC Rich, I would never leave, you know. I was with them 2 different times. And I'm very loyal to whoever I'm endorsing. You know, I've been with Marshall since, I think, the dawn of time. So, yeah, you know, I'll be with Dean till the end of time, until whatever point that becomes, that it's not worth it for me or them. I mean, they're my family. The BC Rich guys are my family, but, you know, sooner or later it becomes business decision.
Was it a buyout that preceded that with them, or was it just something internal that ended up?
No, they stopped paying me.
Oh, that was it. It was like, and no check. Okay. When you guys were coming up, I remember when you first knew that Slayer was ending and you were moving on, I remember talking to you at Comic-Con, and I remember pushing Phil Anselmo as an option, and you were like, no. And I was like, well, I could see where it would make sense, and you were like, I could see where it would make sense, but just no. And for some reason, everyone was just convinced he was going to be in the band. It was like the most prevalent rumor, and I'm wondering what fueled that, because you never told anybody that you were considering Phil for the band. Phil never said, I want to be in Kerry's band, like, but it just was out there and everywhere.
You know, without knowing any of the interior stuff, business-wise, it just makes sense. You know, I've known Phil since before Cowboys from Hell. You know, I don't know a lot of people that known him that long. You know, and he was coming off our opening spot on our tour. You know, you don't have to think very hard to see how that could have happened. But, you know, the record I made up isn't conducive to a good Anselmo performance. You know, there's too much fast stuff going on. He's gotten slower over the years. All the down stuff, super slow. Yeah, he's been in 1,000 other bands too, but you know, business-wise, all the suits wanted it to happen. My manager, my record company, my booking agent, everyone, because, you know, immediately you're doing arenas. And at the end of the day, the Pantera thing came up, and I just said, well, yeah, whatever, go do that.
So what?
We talked about it off and on.
Yeah.
But he never rehearsed with us. He never came to a rehearsal. He never did vocals on anything.
Did he hear any of the music?
He's heard a bit.
Before you decided on Mark?
Yeah, Mark got the gig. Mark didn't get the gig till February last year, February 23. Even though he'd been working with us for a better part of a year, I think. I finally just came down and said, you know, I don't need to drag my feet anymore. I was dragging my feet because I didn't have to make a decision immediately. You know, I wasn't immediately going to record, but by February, we were recording in 2 months, and Mark was killing it, you know, and I just said, there's no point in me not giving you this gig. So he was in my backyard in Vegas, and I told him, we had a shot at tequila and went to the Pro Bowl.
So you kind of have a super group, but you kind of don't want it to be a super group because this is just your new band.
People are going to call it that because you got people from 5 different bands of different levels of success. But yeah, this is my band, and this is how I want to retire from music with these guys.
And with a solid half of your band being from the Bay Area thrash scene, and you being from the beginnings of thrash, was that intentional, or did you just happen to pick the players that you felt worked best with you personally and professionally and musically, and it just happened to be half the band is from the Bay Area?
Yeah, it just happened, really. You know, my prerequisite more than anything was to just get friends. Because this point in my life, my career, my age, I'm like, I don't need any drama. I don't need any diva scenario situations. I want to play with dudes, and when we're done, like at the end of the show, we all get in the middle of the stage and do a shot to the crowd and throw out our cups, and then we go backstage and we just chill. You know, it's not like somebody's segregated over here, somebody's segregated over here. We're all doing just bro stuff.
Define bro stuff.
Hanging out and not having anybody worry about what they say to somebody else, or not tippy-toe around any situation, not walk on eggshells around anybody. It's just everybody's down with it, having a good time. Why can't I speak? Having a good time. It's been a long fucking couple days.
Honestly, it's been a long few months. I was like, oh, let me see what questions Kerry's already answered. And I watched a bunch of interviews and I was like, Jesus Christ, how are you doing this? I told him, I was like, can we get Kerry some tea? Because every interview I see, you have a little bit of a cough. And I think it's because you're just doing so much practice.
Well, usually when I do them, there's at least 4. Mm-hmm. So.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's just a cool situation with 5 dudes who have known each other. I mean, Kyle's the one I've known the least amount of time. I met him in 2015. But everybody else I've known for decades. And, of course, they can play their instruments. Of course, Mark can sing like a motherfucker. But, these are all my bros, and we're enjoying ourselves for, the first time for some of us in years.
For what you remember back in the beginnings of thrash, you guys were in LA, the rest of the guys were in San Francisco, and it seemed like I-5 was a lot shorter back then, and you guys were in San Francisco a lot. Did you ever consider relocating up there, just like Metallica did?
Never did.
Not once?
Not for any reason. I like the Bay Area. It just wasn't for me.
At the time, did you feel like you were playing a different kind of metal than everybody else was?
No, because Metallica was more of a thrash band back then. Everybody was, really. Megadeth was thrashier. And then, obviously, Metallica went on a much more poppy trail than we did. They came back around, They've had a couple pretty killer records, the last couple. And I get confused which one's called what, but the one with Spit Out the Bone, I love Spit Out the Bone. Killer fucking song. But, as we matured and, went our separate paths, we pretty much stayed the thrashiest of the big 4, I would say, by any means. That didn't make us better or anything, we're just different.
Like the Ramones of thrash.
Fair enough.
Yeah. What was the catalyst? Was there a catalyst event when you were a kid that kind of brought you into metal? Was there somebody handed you an album, or?
Probably hearing Priest on the radio, because we had 2 rock stations back then before KNEC. And I heard probably Breaking the Law or Living After Midnight. It was something on British Steel. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know who Judas Priest was, believe it or not, at that point in my life. And I'm like, cool, I like the singer, I like there's 2 guitars. So then what you did back then, you would go buy all the old records. And that's when I found Hellbent for Leather and Stained Class and Sad Wings and all that stuff. And you're like, where have I been? And then the first time I was able to see Priest was on the next one. Fucking The Desert Plains is on. Can't even think of what it's called. Was it? Point of Entry. See, I knew that. Point of Entry. And when I went and saw him, the whole time before this, Halford's in his leather and studs and everything. And that fucking tour, he shows up in a fucking jean sweatsuito, jean jacket and jean fucking leather denim jeans. I'm like, who's this guy? Come on. It was just a letdown for me from all the photos you've seen back then, which would have been magazines. Mm-hmm. But, it's Priest. It was killer. And he's my favorite singer since the dawn of time. He's always my number 1. That's tough to say, being a friend of Ronnie James Dio. But Dio's always been my number 2, man. Sorry, bro.
What kind of kid were you before that happened? I mean, were you just... are we talking about you at like 15, 16, 17? Or are we talking about you at like 10, 11, 12?
When did British Steel come out? 80?
80?
I think so. I would have been 16.
DJ Will from KNAC often being our historian in the corner. You know everything. We could ask you anything right now and you would know the answer.
So I would have been 16. So yeah, I was getting what I listened to from, those two other radio stations we had back then. And that was kind of Priest's first shot at radio play, because they were, catchy, short single type songs that will get on the radio. So that was my introduction. And then, after that, I found Maiden. Even though Sabbath was around, I didn't know much about it. I went and did my metal homework and figured out more about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it.
So, I think at this point, you might be the third most hated man in metal.
Oh, man, I thought it was all right.
I know. I mean, I figure Lars Ulrich is always number one. Right? He's the guy everybody loves to hate.
I love Lars.
And then I usually put Dave Mustaine in number 2, but I think lately, with you guys having the audacity to bring Slayer back, and you having a solo band, God forbid, I think you're like now the third, maybe even the second most hated man in metal.
I'll have to work my way around that.
And I know you're not on social media, but you hear a lot of things. What is something you've heard that you thought was fair? Oh, okay, somebody was talking shit, but you know what? There's something to that.
I really don't have anything I can mention, because I still don't have anything.
But
I just have what my friends tell me.
Yeah. You've never heard anything where you were like, okay, maybe that. No?
Not really.
You're fucking perfect.
I know, and the internet's full of people that just get on to say hateful stuff, whether they know anything about it or not. And I don't need any of that.
So it's all just
bothering my day.
It's just troll culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. It's not like you're going to sue your fans or anything. We are almost done. I can't believe we're like blasting through all this. You're so practiced at the interviews now. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. So many days ago, back when we were at a NAMM convention, and Lombardo was in the band again, and I remember you said to me, Bostaph doesn't get a third time to quit my fucking band. And I was like, I promise you, Paul doesn't want to quit your band ever again. And I was just predicting that Lombardo was going to eventually be gone. And and I was like, at that point, it's probably going to be a last minute thing. And the question's going to be Deddy or Bostaph. And I was like, I'm team Bostaph all the way. And years go by. And I know you have no memory of that conversation, I'm sure. But it ended up happening that way. And I just wondered, how has your relationship with Bostaph evolved over the years from, bringing him into Slayer, him leaving, him coming back, him leaving, him coming back, him staying with you and being, can I say, the anchor to your new band?
Well, if I had my choice, I would have never have him left the band anytime. And the second time we parted ways, I did say exactly what you said to me. I don't remember saying it to you, but I'm always like, why would I have somebody that's quit my band twice come back? And when that conversation happened, that's when we're on a flight to Australia that Dave, we fired him like 2 days before. Luckily, Deddy was in Anthrax, and I called Scott personally. I said, hey, man, do you mind if he learns 8 or 9 songs of ours so we can play? And we were able to do that. But like I landed, and I had no idea that shit had happened. And I'm like, my phone's blowing up when I get to Australia, and Bostaph's like 2 of the calls. I'm like, what happened while I was on that flight? and that's when Dave did his interview, like putting out all kinds of dirty laundry that, it's nobody's business. You shouldn't put fans in a situation where they have to make a choice. That's just fucked up.
Journey. Sorry.
And I said the same thing to myself when I actually called him, because Paul's been my friend throughout the whole thing, leaving, coming, whatever. Like the first time he told me he was going to leave the band, I said, "All right, so we got our business done. Are we going to the bar now? Let's go hang." But I told him, I said, why would I have you in my band so you can quit a third time? And he assured me, to the extent that I'm like, I believe you. All right. I'm either super gullible or, whatever. But
or third time's a charm.
Yeah, hopefully third time's a charm because he's still here.
How's your relationship now compared to how it was before? Are you guys on more equal footing, or do you rely on him more, or has there been any change at all?
In this band, he's the only one that rehearsed with me, but that's how it was in Slayer too, because Paul's close. I still lived in SoCal, I still live in SoCal. So, if we're tight, everyone's tight. But now with this band, it's a little further. Kyle's in Atlanta. The other three guys in the Bay Area. I'm in New York now. So, I rely on them to know their stuff, and we do rehearse when necessary, just to make sure we're tight and everybody's, playing the right transitions and stuff like that. But we rehearse maybe 2-3 days before going out.
Are you going to have rehearsals before the Slayer reunion dates?
Oh yeah.
How long do you think that'll be? Like a week? A month?
It's like, I saw the email today. I think it's 6-7 days, but full stage rehearsal, everything.
Oh wow.
Because we haven't played in 5 years.
Are you going to set that up early at one of the festivals, or are you going to set it up in a venue somewhere?
It's a private facility.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it. It's in Nowheresville, Pennsylvania, and I'm going to be fucking stranded for a week.
In Pennsylvania.
But we'll be burning shit every day, so I'll be excited for a little bit.
Because you want to make sure you don't miss the pyro cues after all these years.
Yeah, and there'll be different ones. There's some things you've seen before, things you haven't seen before. It's definitely the biggest Slayer show that I've ever seen on paper.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, because the retirement tour was pretty big.
Yeah, I liked it. This is still bigger, but I mean we're headlining big ass festivals, so we really got to show up.
How do you choose a set list for that?
I think I've already got it.
Yeah.
Yep. It's tough. I worked on it, like I probably made like 3 or 4 different ones before I landed on the one that I sent to everybody.
Is it something where you're giving everybody what they want, but trying to have a couple surprises?
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a few songs I still have to learn, so I haven't played them in a while.
And how about set lists for a Kerry King band? How do you guys put those together? Because I know you always want to include some Slayer songs, but you've got the new album, and how do you choose between the babies?
The set we're playing on this run is, I love it because we open, with the opener, and then just kind of steps back and revamps up all the way to the end. It's really cool, this set. But there's stuff off the new album I couldn't fit it in. We only got 40 minutes, and we're only playing 2 Slayer songs, so it's not like I'm overloading on Slayer, but like we're not playing Crucifixation. The other guys, everybody wants to play Two Fists. I just couldn't find any place to put it. That one. What else are we? We're not doing Tension, which is a killer indoor song. We're doing.
Wait, why is it better indoors?
I would never play Tension outdoors. It's too moody.
Oh.
And by saying outdoors, I mean in the daylight.
Okay.
If we were outdoors in the evening, absolutely. But it's just gotta have a mood. Kind of like Stillness from the last album. But yeah, we're playing 7 of my songs and only 2 Slayer songs. So it's just a little dash of Slayer to please the old fans, and
because you got to.
I squeezed in as many songs as I could. We're playing 9 songs in 40 minutes. We're just smashed them in there.
So not a lot of stage patter from Mark.
He has 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think he has 3 spots where he talks, and he's a monster with the crowd.
So are you just going to lock in a set list every run and work with it, or is there going to be like a
that's usually
fuck it, let's add a song or change out a song tonight?
That's usually what we do. But when we're going to do headlines next year, we talked about learning like 5 or 6 covers in like interchanging those. Like it would have one spot every night, so whatever song we're playing that night, and then you change it, be in the same spot, just different song, you know.
And covers like Dio, Priest, Motorhead, or covers like Slayer covers, or...
Oh no, I wouldn't call Slayer covers. I wrote those.
Well, fair enough.
And when I put them in my set, I make sure I had a part of it, so you won't see us doing Angel of Death or War Ensemble or South of Heaven for a while, because I want the people that groan about stuff like that to say, oh, he's doing his own songs, that's cool. I've got nothing to complain about that. But will I ever play Angel of Death? Of course I'll play Angel of Death. I want to get over the hump, and maybe 2026 or something, just pull a couple songs out like that. But I wanted to rely on my stuff.
You said 2026, and it's still 24.
I'm not committing to playing Jeff songs in 25. So I don't know.
Okay.
I don't want to hear about it. Are there some great songs? Fucking absolutely, but I don't want to hear about it. So if that means going through 2025, I don't do any of his songs yet, so be it. This is my band's got my name on it, so I want to live up to what people expect.
Whatever happened to the Snakes?
Gave them to the guy that ran the business.
You just really, bye guys.
Well, I'm certainly wasn't going to move that to the East Coast.
There's no way you're taking it to New York. I just didn't know if you were going to still have like something on the West Coast for any of that. No?
No. I gave them to the dude that took care of them for me for all those years.
Nice. I think that not just you, I think most of your band is not super personal or active on social media. Do you think that's a coincidence? I mean, all of you seem to have some kind of presence because it's kind of required because you're in a band, but I don't see, except for Phil, I don't see the rest of them posting like, hey, here we are doing this, and here's my favorite food or whatever. Do you think that's kind of coincidence, or do you think that makes sense because you guys all have a lot in common and get along really well, that it would just naturally be something that just wouldn't be of interest?
I think it's coincidence, and it makes sense, because when these things first started coming, and of course I have a presence through my record label, they run it, but I remember when it first spieled to me, and the guy says, yeah, you can use this app to tell people, where you're at any time of day. I'm like, why would I want that? Why would I want anybody to know where I am? It's going to turn into a fucking autograph session, and I'm all about doing autographs, but I mean, not all day, every day, and that seemed like, who cares if I'm at blah, blah, blah restaurant? Who cares if I'm at this fucking theater doing whatever? I still don't see it, for some people, they live by it, but it's not my cup of tea.
So, on the autograph tip, are there going to be meet and greets in the future as an option for the band?
When it makes sense, probably. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they'll do it immediately when we start headlining. I'm not against it. I know it's big with the fans, and we did on the last Slayer run, and people were super stoked about it.
I mean, I remember you guys used to do record store in stores, mm-hmm. and we had
Are there any record stores anymore?
There are. Well, I'm a big proponent of Record Store Day, and that's when when all the record stores kind of get their day in the spotlight, 2 days a year, and I think it would be super cool if you guys did like a Record Store Day release in an in-store, just a total throwback.
Yeah, if it made sense, I'm all about that.
I remember you guys did the Tower Records in San Francisco, and there was a line for blocks, and we were there all night, and I was there with KSJO at the time, and we had the van out front, and somebody stole that van.
I was not expecting that story to go there.
Yeah. And I was like, well, I'm glad I wasn't the one in charge of those keys. But yeah, it was, it's just things that used to be cool that we just don't have anymore, and I think that the fan meet and greet is the closest thing people can get to that sort of thing.
Yeah, I get it. I'm not against it. I just don't want to be like, I don't want to seem weird, I'd like us to be a little bit more established, probably. But, if it made sense on the next run, so be it.
But you guys are previously established, right? I mean, you're kind of showing up here with a...
I want to make the right steps.
Okay. and I know that you had a lot of time to think about those steps in the pandemic, and I love that you went with what is essentially an independent label,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
But my guy from Nuclear Blast too.
yeah, but started his own label, right? So
Yep.
now it's basically an indie, right?
I guess.
I think that's how that goes. Maybe I'm wrong. Sorry, Gerardo. Shit, I think that's everything I had. Holy crap, we just blew right through them all.
Just watching the lights.
Are you sick and tired of doing interviews? Because there's been so many of them.
I haven't been bombarded.
Yeah.
Well, I heard about this weeks ago, and I'm like, well, make that happen.
Oh,
Because I knew you were
Thank you,
looking
Marty.
for it for quite a while. So,
Yeah.
like in person, fuck yeah, I'll do that at the forum.
Well, that's what I thought would make it cool, you know? Because at first I was like, oh shit, I want to try and get in ahead of the big radio days, you know, where you got to sit there and everybody gets 15 minutes and it feels like you say the same thing over and over, and it's not your fault because people are asking the same questions. Like, I know what your favorite bands are already: Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, you know, Iron Maiden. It's I know how the band name came about. I know, you know, we got all of that stuff. So I was like, all right. And then once you guys came back from Europe, you kind of did like another round, and I was like, okay. And everybody saw a lot of the stuff that happened in Europe. So I was gonna say, like, tour stories. Like, did anything happen? Like, you met Keanu Reeves. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was cool. And I'll tell you, it was fun. And I didn't want it to be weird, you know, because he's a superstar, really. So I wanted to, you know, have an introduction and say, hey, man. As I told him, I said my wife would chop my fucking head off if I didn't reach out and meet fucking John Wick, you know. And in person, he's way more Bill and Ted than John Wick.
Really?
Way more. Like, I was surprised.
Wow. All right. Anything else happen on tour while you guys were out? Anything surprise you?
Nothing surprises me anymore.
Fair. Jesus.
I was pretty surprised by the charter plane we took that looked more like a crop duster than anything I should put a guitar on. And we took that rickety old thing twice. So that was kind of a surprise.
What country was that?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
We took it twice. Just I know one was coming in or going out of Hellfest just because it was tough to get to. One was going into Donington for download. I'd have to look back at my pictures and see. I took a picture of that sketchy fucking thing.
Just in case. You're like, if I go down, they're finding this.
Yeah, that's what I was in. Told you.
Did, oh God, I lost my train of thought again. This happens to me sometimes now. I got the brain fog. And it's gone. Oh, how long did it take you to get your touring legs back on? Because you were home for 4 years, so.
Touring wasn't weird. That
No?
was the part, if anything, that was the part like riding a bike. It was just figuring out the stage and you know where I'm supposed to be, doing what when. Yeah, that was the part, and you know making sure getting the parts right, taking time out to entertain because I don't just stand there and play guitar. I like to entertain. So just figuring out all the ins and outs of being on stage was the tough part.
Somebody told me you were a WWE fan.
Like 25 years ago.
Okay.
Like
That's
when
what I
Stone
thought.
Cold and The Rock came out and Undertaker and Triple H, you know, when it was a lot more real and in your face than it is now. Now it's nothing against it, but it was more real even though it was fake, if you understand what I'm saying. Like it's obviously fake and these people are like cartoon comic book characters, you know. They're not like Stone Cold who'd come out and just start fights with the owner. that was my favorite.
So it's kind of like we can blame Marvel for making it more plastic. Marvel and reality TV.
Mm-hmm.
For making it complicated storylines that go nowhere.
Yeah, I put one on once a month, maybe.
Do you have a favorite wrestler?
I couldn't even tell you who's popular right now.
Who's your favorite classic?
My favorite what?
Classic wrestler.
Stone Cold.
All right.
Attitude, man. I used to wear his shirts on stage.
You did. I forgot about
The one where he's just going.
that. That sounds like it should be your merch now.
Yeah.
That should be a Kerry King t-shirt.
I start flipping off the fucking photographers.
Why not? How is merch? What do you guys got out there?
2 or 3 shirts, cool hat, cool bandana. But I mean, we're third on the bill, so it's not like we're gonna have 20 shirts of this. And
But next year.
next year, but we're not doing big room, so I mean, it might expand to maybe 4 shirts, a long sleeve, maybe a hoodie, depending on the time of year and where we're at.
Bitchin'.